and I have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer.
So they know the topic ahead of time, but they don't know the side, so they spend time preparing arguments for both sides just in case.
Yep, so in the course of a debate tournament, hopefully they're debating both sides. Due to the flip of the coin, you could possibly debate the whole side all day, depending on whether you win or lose. But yeah, they do both. They write cases for both sides. They have to be prepared to debate both sides.
Cool.
Yeah. So this weekend we're debating about Confederate monuments and whether they should be eliminated. So that should be an interesting debate this weekend.
How much time would you say you prepare for each debate? Research time, practice time?
It depends on how you are as a debater. Some of us like to prepare Friday night before the debate.
Yeah. If we're like, three of us are in extemporaneous speaking and forensics, so we're used to preparing speeches really quickly. So we don't always have to put as much time into it, and it depends on if the topic calls for a lot of statistics or not. So
I usually spend hours upon hours researching, but then like the actual writing of the case itself only takes about half an hour to an hour. So it's just, it all depends on, you get out of it what you put into it. So.
And it depends on how familiar you are with the topic and what you need to learn. And that's kind of the best part of it, is learning new things.
And I'm in the same boat with Trevor over here. I usually spend 3 to 6 hours, sometimes more, just on the research phase. I'll come to tournaments with 20 to 40 pages of notes, printed notes. But the actual writing of the case itself, once you have all the information compiled, you weigh the pros and cons to each point, and it's weighed. Obviously, each contention has a different weight. It ends up being 30 minutes of writing.
As a team, we're on a kind of a 2-week cycle, so we have tournaments every other weekend. And so as a team, we only practice once a week. So on that first Tuesday, once we know the topic, we brainstorm as a team, pros and cons, ideas, things that we're thinking about. We set up our teams based on who's able to go to the tournament. And then as teams, they usually break it up. One's going to write the pro and one's going to write the con. And then the next week, theoretically, we would do practice rounds. Usually what we do is just talk about what they have written so far in their cases and kind of do a little bit of debating around the table. And then, yeah, usually they finish their cases like right before the tournament.
Who do you think won this debate?
Oh, they're all winners. It was kind of funny. Jonathan and I are in the back of the room and we're jotting down like different things back and forth. And it was kind of funny how like Trevor did such a nice job of like that pathos of like getting some humor into it. And it was really a nice example of that persuasion, how like there's facts and statistics and that logos and how that is persuasive. And so I thought it was a good example of how you kind of can go back and forth as you watch. I never tell them who I think wins because that's never a good thing. I was also jotting down their big words. I like the big words. Normally in a typical debate, there's a judge in the back of the round, so your kids who are like scared to speak in front of big groups, this is probably the biggest group they've ever debated in front of. Usually you're just debating in front of one adult who then has a ballot and they jot down all of their thoughts on that ballot, and you don't find out the winner or the loser until the end of the tournament. That's how we do it. Thank you.
Do they have their sources up there, or just, do you have sources or notes, or?
You can, it's better to have your sources on you in case you get questions about it, but a lot of the time you can just, if it's something that you don't think is going to be questioned much, like it's just a basic fact, then you can just write down the source and call it good, which is what follows.
And a lot of times the source is integrated into your speech, so you say according to blank, and most of the time we know between each other if it's a credible source or not. If it seems really questionable, then you can maybe call someone out on it if you think it's going to work to your advantage.
But during a debate, they can't access, like Colton was mentioning with his tablet, you can't access the outside world, so everything has to be printed out or saved on the document or on the device. You can't access the outside world during the debate. And I would say for the classroom, there's like a million ways to modify this. So we do it in the classroom with like 4 people on a side, and we have different roles for everybody. So there's lots of different ways that you can modify what this is and use it in the classroom too. And it's like a zillion standards in one activity, which is really awesome. Yeah.
Since you dropped the S word there, you've evangelized the Common Core state standards with debate really well before. And say what you will about the Common Core state standards, in English language arts, they're very skill-based. So if you could comment on that, please.
As soon as the Common Core came out and I saw argumentation, I was like, hallelujah. So I've been in debate since I was in 8th grade, which at this point is like over 20 years, which is also kind of crazy. So within debate, what I see is obviously writing standard 1 is argumentation all the way through. But because they're not just writing their speeches and presenting them, you get speaking and listening standard 4. They're also evaluating sources, which is what, standard 5, something like that. And then they're close reading their evidence, so then you get reading informational text, standards 1 1 and 2. So you get like a whole slew of standards all within one fell swoop. And if you have your students watching the debates and evaluating the debates, then you get listening in there too. So yeah, there's like just a whole slew of English standards in one unit, and it makes me happy because then also the critical thinking that they're doing is not me telling them anything. And in fact, Jonathan and I joke that as coaches, we do very, very little. We're there to facilitate their conversations, but other than that, they're doing all of the thinking, they're doing all of the work. It's just us, like, you know, maybe leading them on a certain path every once in a while, and that rarely happens because they're such smart kids. So they're taking those standards, they're running with them. So at the point where they are on their own in college, I mean, you just know they're going to be able to handle anything a professor throws at them, which makes them good citizens also. Yeah.
Could we go student by student and just like in a quick sentence or two, share why you do debate, what you love about it?
I want to be a lawyer, so this is actually what got me interested in law. So.
I like that it forces you to learn both sides of every issue.
I just love the exchange of knowledge and getting to meet new people while you do it too.
I think comedy is a great way to cope with tragedy, and this is nothing more than organized comedy.
Anything else you can answer?
I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Could you talk briefly about the cool concept of the pop-up debate thing that you're doing?
Oh, yeah. Pop-up debates are one of my favorite things to use in my classroom. It comes from DaveStewartJr.com, which is a blog. If you're not reading, you should totally do that. DaveStewartJr.com. I'm also presenting pop-up debates at WSRA in February. So pop-up debates are a really cool idea that he came up with for like quick argumentation in the classroom. And the basic idea is that you could take a group like this and have whatever topic that you want to debate and have the kids prepare in whatever way. And they pop up, they stand up, and they present their argument, and it's just the argument, claim, evidence, reasoning, and then they sit down. And you don't have to go pro-con, it can just whoever wants to speak next. I have my kids do a listening guide while they're doing it, so they're jotting down the claims and keeping track of what everybody's saying. So if they want to, they can then build on something somebody said 5 pop-ups ago, or refute something somebody said 10 pop-ups ago. So again, listening or speaking and listening standards are trying to build on and refute other people's ideas. I've done it with obviously current events. I've done it with informational text in my English 11 class. We were debating like Thoreau, different concepts that he had in his essays. So there's lots of different ways that I've applied pop-up debates within my classroom, but it's really, really quick. So in the course of like even 20 minutes you can get a pop-up in, but in the course of a class period you can do a really nice pop-up where as long as kids have prepared, done their homework ahead of time, you get a lot of information out there in a very short period of time, and it's really just a fun way to kind of practice argumentation. And that's what we also kind of do as a team when we don't have our cases together. We do pop-ups in practice, and that works out really well too. But I encourage you to go to DaveStewartJr.com because he has a pop-up debate kit that you can purchase for whatever amount you want to pay. And so I purchased that to start, and he has all kinds of materials there to kind of help you out. Or come to WSRA, and I'll give you a little overview of it there too. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it.